Hi, it's Ash Beck for BuzzPop. We're at Mike's Guitar Parlor in Hermosa Beach, California.
Headed west to live out all my dreams.
Hi, it's Ash Beck with BuzzPop. Today we're here with
Saxon Weiss. Hey everybody, I'm Saxon Weiss. I'm 13 years old. I play guitar. I've been playing guitar for about 5 years now. And yeah, I started playing ukulele when I was 3 years old. And I always wanted to play the guitar, but it was just always too big for me. And so the ukulele led me into like Hawaiian style music. And we went out to Hawaii and I played a couple of gigs out there. I played like a luau and a bar out there, and that's kind of my first performances that were real. And when I started getting a little older and able to play guitar, that was around 8, and I was into something called Hawaiian slack key. Slack key guitar is where the Hawaiians, they would tune the guitar down, but they would usually tune it to their voices so they could sing. It was usually in an open tuning, and I really liked that sound. And coming from the ukulele, it was kind of a natural thing that I always heard. And I started trying to do it on the ukulele, but it wasn't really totally exactly what I wanted to hear. So when I started getting old enough to play guitar, I was using something called a thumb pick, it's like a pick, but it goes on your thumb. And the Hawaiians would use that to pick on the guitar, which would be used in slack key. I started to later realize that there's something called Travis picking, which is a lot similar to slack key guitar. It's just in a different style. So people like Chet Atkins and Jerry Reed, they played Travis picking. And that was a really cool introduction to that because it had like a little bit of jazz influence in it, and a little country, just a little bit of something different, and it opened my ears up more. And I just started practicing the thumb picking thing, just going over and over again. And we're thinking, man, maybe I should learn piano or something, I don't know. But then I was like, well, I should probably try learning classical guitar, because I really want to get a good technique. And some people, they will get bad hands later on in life, and I really didn't want to mess anything up and just have a good, introduction into that. So I started studying classical guitar with a guy. His name is Alexander Milanov, and I've been studying with him for about almost 5 years now. Wow. And so we were learning reading and classical guitar, getting good technique, and it's a totally different way of playing the guitar. It's very regimented and straight. You really gotta do exactly what the paper says, which is a lot different from what I started really getting into a little later, pretty shortly after actually, classical. I started getting into jazz, and I started studying with a guy named Dan O'Sullivan. and we started studying jazz and theory. And that was really interesting because it has kind of the country thing, like the Travis picking. I got to play that, and it kind of Dan opened my ears to more jazz stuff too. So I started listening to people like Pat Metheny, George Benson, Wes Montgomery, all the jazz people. And that was really cool to learn that because I kind of had the best of both worlds, like classical guitar and then jazz. And it's just a really good thing for technique, and then reading too. I worked on that with, reading like jazz standards and stuff like that. I still sit in with a lot of people, and they tend to play some blues or rock stuff, and really I started learning blues. I never really learned blues. I was playing blues with people, and that I just was playing that. So it's kind of like a thing I'd always play, especially when I'd sit in with a band or whatever. They'd say, "How about this tune?" And it was like a blues song, like a 1-4-5 or something. That was kind of my introduction to blues, because I wasn't a blues player, and I don't really consider myself that. I just like to play that sometimes. Music has always been a natural thing to me. I always knew it was a gift from God, since, I was like 2 or 3. And the guitar, playing it was always very natural. I learned really first by ear. Like a lot of the things I do is just by ear. I'd listen to things and then I'd get on the guitar and I'd be like, oh, just playing around, but I wouldn't try to replicate anything specific. I'd just get on the guitar and whatever inspired me would come out, and not really thinking about it. And I think that's a great way to try to do stuff, instead of some people say, oh, well, I learned from YouTube, which that's cool for certain things, but I think it's really awesome to go and listen to something, just with your ears, and then go on an instrument and see what comes out, not trying to do anything that you heard, It's an interesting thing with tones. They can really inspire me to play something different, like if I pick up a different guitar, I'll start playing in maybe a different way. Not like it's making me do something different, it's just inspiring me in a different way. That's not really, I'm not conscious of it totally, it's just a natural thing. My first electric guitar was a Strat. My very first one was a Squier Stratocaster. It was just a mini one, but my real first one was a Stratocaster, and that was kind of what I was really into. But I didn't play many other guitars at that time. But now I am a huge Les Paul fan, and that's kind of what I play most of the time. I switch out guitars, but that's my main guitar. I've gotten sort of used to it. I have a Les Paul. It's a Pelham Blue Les Paul, and it's like 10.5 pounds. Yeah, so that is kind of heavy. So after like a 4-hour gig, it can be, pretty bad on the shoulder sometimes. But I have another Les Paul. It's a Dirty Lemon Burst. Actually, it's a really crazy story. Side note here. Norm from Normsburg Guitars called my dad, and he said, "Hey, can you guys come in? Or I want to show you guys something, or I want to know this guy in Hawaii. He wants to pick out a guitar, but he can't be there. So he wants you to test it out because he really likes playing." So we went there, and he was like, "Saxon, try to find a guitar that you think is really, really, really great and feels great, and what you would want to play for this guy named Kenny. And you have a $10,000 budget, or $8,000 budget, yeah." And so I was like, okay, this is kind of a fun little thing. And so I picked out this Dirty Lemon Burst. It's a custom shop Murphy Lab. reissue of a 1960s Les Paul, and I was like, I think this was a pretty good one. It was kind of the best one I could find, and he was like, all right, well, let's try a video with it, and let's see how you think. And in the video, he says, well, do you think this is the right one for Kenny? And I was like, yeah, I would use it, definitely. I think that's the right one. And he said, well, Kenny just bought that for you. And I went, whoa, that's crazy.
I did, yes, I did.
Yeah. So that was like, crazy moment there. But that is the guitar that I play mostly now.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, what about like the Gibson ES335s and other things?
Yeah. So I have an ES339, which is a smaller version of the 335, because I usually don't have a problem with bigger guitars, but the 335 is just, I don't know, when I stand up and play it, it's pretty big, so the 339 was a gift to me from a friend too, and that one's really great. It's not nearly as heavy either as 335, and it still has that, breathing, warm tone that you'd expect from like a 335. First of all, when it's just me playing, I just really like to have a place for people to just enjoy the music, and really get into it and just have a nice time. And that's really great when I see people really loving what's happening in the moment. And that's what is great about music. It can kind of, take you to another place, so to speak, Also, when you mentioned playing on different stages, I've had people like Jackson Browne and stuff, they got me up on stage there, and that's really cool, just different experiences and different, settings. It's even, a different stage could have such a different feel, playing the same thing as another stage, So, all of that is just very exciting, and it's never like a dull moment, To me, it really, whoever's there, that's great. It doesn't, if somebody, it could be one person, it could be 1,000, it could be 100,000. It's all great, it's really cool. I love playing to a big crowd, because it's just it's cool to see so many people. So I am a avid surfer. I've especially since the online school thing I started in January. It's nice for my whole schedule because I go surfing in the morning, and then I do school, and then I do music. And just now in summer, I just started junior lifeguards. I was just there today, so pretty soon after we just headed out and we're here. So yeah, it's really, the water is like a huge part of here, and it's great. It's really hard to imagine not living with water.
Now, do you surf up in PV then, or do you come down?
Yeah, well, junior lifeguards is in Torrance, like Torrance beaches, yeah.
Okay. Who shaped your board?
Well, I have a couple. I have one called Hayden's Shapes. That's a newer board that I got. It's kind of like a shortish board, Then I have a long board. I think that was Angelo Ferrara. Yeah. Singing has always kind of been a thing that I've always done. People ask me, oh, is it really hard to play and sing at the same time? And it's a thing just because I've been doing it, because I started doing the, Hawaiian style stuff when I was like 5. So I kind of had an early introduction to that. So I really have always enjoyed singer-songwriter people, like James Taylor and Jackson Browne, just having something like, so simple like a guitar and the vocals, and it resonates so well. But then also, in a band, it's really great, it's cool it's interesting when you see a band and it's all instrumental, and you go, oh wow, it's all instrumental. Like, how's this gonna be? You know, but it's yeah. I mean, singing has always been a thing that I've loved to do, and it's kind of like it's hard to imagine not singing. You know,
it's just a natural point of what you do.
sort of, yeah. I mean, if I write a song, it's hard for me to go, okay, that's the song, and not have lyrics or something to it yet. You know, so I only have a couple songs that are instrumental, but a lot of them are vocal songs. I always start with the music because it's like there's something to it that's always been natural to me of just playing chords. And usually how I will get an idea is I pick up the guitar, I just pick it up, I feel kind of inspired to play something, and I, just kind of jam around on it, not really having usually a set idea in my head. And I kind of let it go, and then I go, oh, that's kind of cool, and then I just build off something like that. And the words always go last when I write.
So it is sometimes you write riffs, or is it just kind of like chord progressions and you're mapping out the big picture and then it's more specific?
Usually it's the chords. Maybe sometimes there'll be a hook or something like that, but it tends to be the chords and then maybe a melody thing, or the melody kind of is embedded in the chords or something like that. But it's either like I get a melody or just a chord progression in my head first, and then I get inspired to write lyrics to that.
And then it kind of goes in the back of your head. It's interesting. And then comes the nasty bridge. I need a bridge.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's like, where do we go from here? I've written a lot of my songs probably in my room. But recently we just made a studio at my house. I think I've written one song in it, and I'm really, really liking that song right now. But I think it's kind of in my room before. But sometimes it'll change, or I will start, because I'll have guitars all over the place. I'll start in a different room and then I go somewhere else. Also, just because if something's if there's loud noises or something, maybe I'll go somewhere else, but yeah.
Sure, like Brian Wilson did in my room, obviously.
Right.
Sounds.
Well, the first Beach Live Festival I did, it was just a 3-piece, so it was just guitar, bass, and drums. And then this year I had guitar, keys, bass, and drums. And that's kind of like the sweet spot for me. You can always build, but I'm happy with a 3-piece when it comes down to it. I'm happy playing solo, but, it depends. It kind of depends on also the place you're playing. Sometimes it'll be well, I think that keys are needed here, or I think in this place just a more stripped down thing is going to be cool. So it will kind of vary, yeah.
It's interesting because I went to St. Roch and Big Country played there, and this is, this was obviously the reincarnation, and Mike Peters recently died, unfortunately, from the alarm. But they were too big for the space. It was the wall of sound, even, because they need a bigger thing. And sometimes people, stadiums, there's only certain bands that can do stadiums as well. Some are too small, some are too big. And then you get into those arenas or those small, beautiful places that are 2,000-3,000 people in just an intimate setting.
Yeah.
Have you played any of those?
Yeah. So.
And do you like the size?
I played with Warren Haynes on something you'd probably call around that sort of thing. It's a theater in Ventura, and that was really cool. It was kind of a perfect size actually. It wasn't too big. And it felt intimate enough, like you said. It was really cool playing there because it was, the stage was cool, and it had good sound. It's kind of, I think that's maybe a perfect, in terms of sound and everything musically, it's probably kind of the best venue is a theater type thing.
A
But
little bit more controlled from versus the
Yeah.
outside, sure.
I mean, the stadiums, they're cool, but you're never gonna get a good sound there. I mean, it's really hard. People make great sounds in stadiums, but there's always some weird like bouncing effect of sound going places because they aren't usually made for, music. It's like a baseball stadium. When we went out to go meet up with Zach Brown, when he was playing a show, he played, I think it was like the Eagles Stadium, and that's like 80,000 people, and it had a super big delay from the stage to the outside. It was like crazy. So if you heard it from the stage, it was like it's like a whole delay effect. So it is really hard. It's really hard to play that if you don't have in-ears.
That's a big thing. I was at Paso Robles, and Elvis Costello played.
Okay.
But what happened too is, they had the speakers on there, but you also had the amps turned up a lot.
Uh-huh.
So what happened, you
Yeah.
had this repercussion, and it just started bouncing, and it was, and I love Elvis Costello, but it sounded horrible.
Yeah, right. Uh-huh.
And so get it, you can be big and small, but that's something
Yeah.
that a great sound engineer can figure out.
Yeah, some, especially now, it seems that people, especially, once you get into festivals, they really like the whole, stage volume to, nothing. Like amps turned to, 2 or no amps, which, is kind of becoming a thing, especially in the pop world. It's like amp modelers is a huge thing. I was using a Princeton a lot, and then I used 2 Princetons, Eric Johnson. I know George Alessandro, we are close friends, and Eric Johnson, he said, hey, can we try to swap out an amp? How about you just send this one to Saxon, soup it up, and he sent it to me, and George and them figured out a different amp that Eric wanted. So he sent me a Princeton amp that George wired up, hand wired and everything.
So was that in 1965 by chance?
It was a silver face.
Okay.
It was not a
Not
65.
black face, but
Yeah.
that's okay. They are beautiful
Yeah.
amps.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then I also have another amp that's a Princeton too, made by Mike Moody. It's Magic Amplification, and Mike's a close friend too, and that's a black face. So I paired them together once I had both of them, and that was a really cool sound. I liked that. And then George recently, before Beach Life, he was like, well, you need something that's going to have more wattage and stuff now for the bigger stage. And I was like, okay. George sent me an amp. It's called a Crossbred Mutt, and it's 40 watts, and it's kind of a perfect size. It's really not big. It's a little bigger than a Princeton, barely. And I played it on every stage that in size. I played it at the tiniest gig. I played it at Beach Life, low tide stage, and that was around 10,000 people. And that was perfect. And then I played with Warren Haynes. It was also perfect. Really, I just like sharing music with people, and going back to the thing where I've always, from the beginning, I knew it was a gift from God, and I really felt He put me here to pursue music and, you know, just share it with the world. And I just want to share it with whoever wants to listen.
Thank you. We've got one last tune for you.
Headed west to live out all my dreams.
Hi, this is Ash Beck. We've been with Saxon Weiss today at BuzzPop. Saxon, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks so much.